Many of you may know this story about Abraham, the biblical Abraham, but I'm going to tell it here so we're all on the same page, just in case you haven't heard of it. Abraham's father had a shop that sold idols. These were statues that could be purchased by people for worship in the home. One day, as a young man, Abraham was left in charge of the shop while his father was away. A man came in and asked for an idol, and the story is that Abraham asked the man, "How old are you?" And the man answered he was 50 years old. And Abraham asked him, how could he worship an idol that was made yesterday, an idol only one day old? Not surprisingly, the customer left, and he didn't buy an idol. So one thing we can learn about our young Abraham is that he was not focused on making sales. The next customer was a woman who wanted to make an offering of food to one of the idols in the shop. And Abraham then, with a stick, smashed all the idols in the shop except for the largest one and put the stick in the largest idol's hands. I can't imagine really what that customer's response was before she left, but I can easily imagine her posting a 1-star review of the shop. But again, this is not a move that generates sales for the family business. And anyway, the story continues. When Abraham's father returned, he saw the smashed idols. He asked his son what happened. And Abraham's story was that a woman had come in, wanted to make an offering, and the idols were fighting about who should receive the food. And Abraham said the largest idol had settled the argument by smashing all the other idols. Okay, imagine for a moment being Abraham's father looking at a whole shop of smashed idols. He knows the largest idol didn't smash the other idols. He knows his own son pretty effectively just destroyed the whole business. The father said something like, "They're just statues." And Abraham replied, of course, "Then why do you worship them?" And this is a great question for a son to ask a father when they're questioning the way they've been brought up. They're questioning. This story is often told as a way to express how Abraham, the future patriarch of 3 major religions, it's how he came to be a monotheist. Abraham left idol worship behind and came to believe only in one God, and it's a God that cannot be worshipped in the form of an idol. Personally, I find the story is also about, 1, Abraham not wanting to work in his father's shop, and 2, how children naturally question the truth of what they are taught by their parents. And so just like Abraham questioned his father, to the extent Abraham is my ancestor, I think it's fine to question him as well. In the story, we don't really get the father's answers to Abraham's question, so why do you worship these idols? What could an answer be? Maybe the father, if he had answered, he might have said something like, "Why do I worship them? Son, what you say is blasphemy. We can't ask questions like that. We have these idols in our house and we worship them because the gods demand that they be worshipped, or else they're going to turn against us. The gods don't care who makes the idols, but the gods need an idol to be worshipped, so shut your mouth before the gods hear you." Okay, that's what the father might have said if he was a believer. What might Abraham have said back to his father about that? What if Abraham had been up for a conversation first before destroying his father's livelihood? What if, instead of acting out as he did, Abraham actually spoke to his father about this? Maybe Abraham would respond with something like, "But why do the gods ask us to bow down and pray to a piece of wood? Why does a carved piece of wood represent the gods more than a flower or a rock or a chicken? Why does a powerful God even need to be represented by anything? What if there was one God so powerful that he actually can't be represented by anything?" And if the conversation could continue, I'm imagining the father might say something like, all right, I'll give you that the wood itself is not the God, but clearly there's more than one God. And for any of the gods we need to worship, they're too big, they're too mysterious for us to imagine. We humans need something physical. We need something we can see right in front of us, tangible. We need something that can help us focus our attention on the gods. We need a way to make the gods visible to us. That's why we need an idol, so we can orient ourselves in prayer. I find this a fascinating imaginary conversation. And being a lover of multiple storylines, I can also imagine the father saying, I can't believe you destroyed everything. We go to the river. We find a piece of wood. It's just laying on the ground. It's free. The wood is free. And then we spend a few days carving, and we can sell it for 50 drachmas? Oh my gosh, that's nothing to sneeze at. This family's got to make a living. Somehow. Idols, schmidles, I got a good business going here. You just smash everything? What, to make a philosophical point? Forget it. I'm giving the business to your brother. If you didn't want to work here, why didn't you just fucking say so? You don't have to work here. I'm taking you to Nimrod. Well, I think Abraham did a great thing by letting go of the need to worship multiple wooden idols. I think that's totally to his credit. That's a fantastic insight. And the questions he asked in this story, maybe his manner left something to be desired, but the questions are good questions. I just think that with the monotheistic God he found, what he did essentially was replace our worshiping physical wooden idols with worshiping an abstract mental formation. And that's what I want to talk about today. Hello and welcome to the 10 Crutches podcast. My name is David. I'm glad you're here. What is an idol? In the most general sense, what's an idol? Well, let's start as simply as possible and say an idol is something you worship. Okay, so then that automatically leads to asking, well, what is worship? If you get rid of the physical idols, do you get rid of worship as well? Well, no. That was Abraham's civilization-changing insight. It's possible to worship something you can't see, something you can't necessarily sense directly at all. So what does it mean to worship something? I want to try and get at this question obliquely, kind of sneak up on the question from the side. I think if we approach worship too directly, the answers are just going to run away from us. A piece of carved wood in the shape of a god, an idol. It's a very physical form for the idol to take. But once our worship was liberated from physical idols, it became very clear that worship can be more subtle. How about money? Can money be worshipped? It sure looks that way. How about fame? People chase fame as if they were worshiping their idea of becoming famous. People put a lot of work into the worship of the fame idol. Worshipping fame means you chase conditions that will result in others, well, maybe not worshiping me, but at least knowing me, celebrating me, or fearing me. In a way, chasing fame is like wanting to become an idol yourself. We even used to call movie stars idols of the silver screen. I would say, besides worshiping the idols of money and fame, an idol can also be a personal ideal. We all have notions of how we want things to be for ourselves, visions of what we want ourselves to become. For example, for a long time, I wanted to be a
great writer,
a
highly respected writer,
and also
successful too.
So that image, that hope, that vision of
David being a great writer.
That had become an idol for me. In effect, I bowed down low before this vision. I prayed to it. I asked it for guidance. I asked it for help. I made sacrifices to it. My ideal of becoming a great writer became kind of like a carved block of wood sold in the idol shop. I spent quite a bit of time and energy worshiping my
I want to be a great writer.
idol. And all that time and energy worshiping that idol, it was time spent not writing. The energy of thinking about it, daydreaming about it, caressing that idol, that was energy my writing never saw. Even if I was actually writing, I still went on worshiping somewhere in my consciousness, perhaps at that moment outside my awareness. It would feel like the idol was helping me, but I would say now I think it was draining me. Even people who are genuinely great writers, they could still worship their I want to be a great writer idol. Being a great writer or not is a separate issue from worshiping the idol. So let's shift. Let's come at this from another angle. Consider this. We experience the world as a subject, a quote-unquote I, a me, a subject who perceives many different objects in the world. Wherever we turn, whatever sense we're using, whatever direction we look, we are the subject of some experience or another. What I'm calling the subject is the one who experiences. What we experience is outside of us as an experiencer. It's separate from us. Like when we hear a bird sing or a car horn honk, we hear the sound from outside of us. We see things that are over there. And of course, we can also perceive thoughts and feelings and sensations that happen inside of us. But we're still an experiencer where there's a me who's having the thought or the feeling on the inside. So the entire world we experience either being out there or in here, the result may be feeling alone to a degree that's overwhelming. We may feel alone and confused, perhaps disoriented. And in our loneliness, in our confusion, I talk about this in many other points of the 10 Crutches podcast, about the loneliness and about the confusion. What I'm saying here is that this confusion forces us to find a compensation. We must compensate somehow for the emptiness inside of us. The universe is too big for us to just humbly accept that we are a small part of it. The universe is too small and detailed for us not to feel like we have at least some power. We can make some decisions. We can get things done. But however large or small the universe is, we are very clearly not at the center of it. And yet, our perceptions, our experiences, our subjective life happens as if we were at the center of something. What are we that we can seem like we're at the center of something and yet not be anything but a tiny fleck in a vast sea of almost total emptiness? This is another way to say we must find a compensation. A compensation is, in a way, a story we tell ourselves. We have to find a story so that our being in a whole universe can make some sense. We must have some story to understand the mismatch between what we are and what we want to be. We must explain to ourselves the fact that we are at the center and yet we are not. I want to keep expanding this definition of what a compensation is. I need a way to view the universe so that things make sense to me, so that I am at the center of my story about what's happening. I need to be able to describe life in such a way that my personal existence makes some kind of sense to me. Even when somebody takes a very extreme view, even if a person believes that nothing makes sense, it's still nothing making sense to them. It's still their personal judgment about the universe that sits at the center of their psyche and compensates them, even if it's a very painful thing to believe. Our compensations work because they are personal. My compensation is at the center of my psyche. It's as if I survival level need there to be a center of the universe. And if I can't find one, if I can't be one, well, then I go ahead and invent one where I'm at the center. This is not something we just decide to do or something we can decide not to do. This happens. It follows directly from having a consciousness that experiences the world as a subject. Having a compensation is an inherent part of being a subjective somebody. These compensations are at the basis of our identities. They are not trivial. What I am calling worshiping an idol is nothing less than paying deep attention to our compensations and trying our best to hold them as true, even when the world itself is showing them as false. The world eventually will smash all of our idols. The world will eventually show us just how mistaken we were to believe our compensation story puts us actually at the center. Just like Abraham smashed the idols in his father's shop, the world, if you're paying attention, reminds you over and over and over again. It smashes the idol of, I am at the center. But just because the universe will eventually smash all your idols doesn't mean it's easy or even possible to let go of them. We are in the idol business, just like Abraham's father. It's not so easy to do without idols, and they can turn out to be very sticky. So now I'd like to discuss some ideas about how to let go of idols, how to let go of what we worship. We didn't consciously decide we needed to worship idols, and we can't consciously decide simply to stop. It's something we must be weaned from, but we're not able to wean ourselves. That's why it's important to have a context, to have some ideas about what's happening as you try to let go of worshiping idols. The first step is to realize that once you have some desire to let go of idols, some desire to stop worshiping, that desire has now just become the latest idol. My wanting to let go of idols is simply another way of saying, I have started to worship an idol called the
letting go of idols.
Idol. See how sticky it can be? This is normal. This is the starting point. And it's essential to recognize all we can do is worship one idol or another. We don't know how to do anything else except worship idols. So I try to remember there's nothing I can do about idol worshiping directly. By making my new idol the I will get rid of all idols idol, or by bowing down to the I will stop worshiping idol, I haven't really changed anything. I haven't made it worse either, but I haven't made it better. All I did was just kind of consolidate all my idols into one idol. Letting go of an idol cannot involve smashing it, as Abraham did. Smashing a wooden idol kind of does nothing. I mean, it changes the form of the idol from an intact piece of carved wood to pieces of wood on the floor. The need to worship remains. The worshiping remains, and it finds a new object, even if it's a highly abstract object, like an image of an omniscient, omnipotent God. Our own actions fail to touch our inclination to worship. The important thing here is to see how deeply we need something to worship, some place to focus our worship, some way to tell a story to ourselves about how this vast world came to be like this. How can this vast world have me somehow as a part of it? How did this whole enormous universe with me in it come to be? I need some story. What does letting go of worship mean? It means beginning the long process of simply seeing each idol as it is, in its full reality, with nothing added and nothing taken away. The wooden idols of Abraham's father's shop, the wooden idols existed as blocks of carved wood. There they were, simple objects within the world. The added part was about what the wooden idols meant. The added part was that the idol represented a god. Only humans can ascribe meanings that lead to worship. Some might say this is a human addition to the idol itself. But really, when you think about it, nothing has been added to the idol itself. It is only an addition within the human mind, the mind that's doing the worshiping. No other creature alive, no dog, no cat, no squirrel, no monkey, no dolphin, nothing would see the human meaning in a wooden idol that would lead it to worship that idol. To begin letting go of worship is to see yourself. You're the one who's adding in the meaning. When Abraham did this, when Abraham cleared his vision enough to just see the actual wooden idols as simple blocks of wood, the idols became what they were, blocks of carved wood. He didn't need to be so dramatic and smash them. He didn't need to prove anything to his father, but he was young. He was caught up in the game, so he did what he did. Letting go of worship, seeing the reality of the idol, these require an action, but it can't be an action we are compelled to take. It could never be an action it's our duty to take. We can't let go of worship by worshiping the idol of letting go of worship. Anytime compulsion or duty enters the picture, we're still in the worshiping game. We are worshiping that ideal of letting go. This is what I mean by how subtle a spiritual idol can get. It can whisper to us, you can awaken to your true nature. Just follow me. To be trapped in a life where we must let go of idols, we must stop worshiping idols. That's to continuously divide ourselves. We are kept divided, with one aspect of us feeling this urgency, this duty to let go. This aspect will then try to get the rest of our being to let go. But in addition to being divided up into aspects, we are always, at the same time, we're always entire beings. We are always single and complete and undivided beings. The letting go I am searching for can only be a letting go of my entire being. It's not an action one aspect of me can conceive of, and then the rest of me, the rest of the entire being carries it out. It's an action that can only be taken by my entire being. It can only happen in a moment when my entire being releases my desire to project my personal meaning onto reality and then bow down to it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Please visit the home of the 10 Crutches podcast at 10crutches.link. That's 10crutches.link. The book that inspired the podcast, a book I wrote called 10 Crutches for Walking in the Present, is available for free download on the website. Also on the website, You can visit the archive to hear any published episode and see show notes for any and every show. Thanks so much for listening. And once again, thanks so much for listening. And I won't say it once again. See you next time.